Hello, and welcome everyone to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufas Kamau, Markets Analyst at FX Pesa. So as we all know, today is Monday. It's the beginning of a new week. And of course, we'll be expecting new information in the markets, new trends or continuation of the same trends. And of course, we will be looking for those opportunities to be trading in the markets. So first things first, we know that the earnings season is back. Last week, we saw the top banks in the US basically reporting upbeat earnings. So all the banks that reported last week, including JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and of course, we had Wells Fargo, they all had better than expected earnings. So these are an indication that the financial sector of the US is doing really well in this environment where there is high interest rates. So we'll be looking at more companies that will be reporting their earnings this week. So among the key highlights, we'll go through them right away. And then once we go through the highlights, then we also look at the economic calendar. So clearly, on Monday, that's today, we don't have any notable earnings except one company, Equity Lifestyle Properties. Then on Tuesday, we have more banking companies reporting their earnings. First things first, we have Bank of America, we have Bank of New York Mellon, Charles Schwab. We'll be having earnings from Hasbro, Interactive Brokers, JB Hunt, Transport Services, Lockheed Martin, Morgan Stanley, Novartis, Omnicom, Pinnacle Financial Partners, PNC, Prologis. So including the Western Alliance Bancorp, one of the banks that were really pressed during the financial crisis a couple of months ago. So going forward, we'll also be getting earnings from Netflix. This will be happening on Wednesday. So we could be seeing some good volatility coming in from Netflix shares. Then Tesla will also be reporting on Wednesday. Of course, we'll be having even more companies such as Core, Adi Financial, ASML. Among the key highlights, including Goldman Sachs, we'll be seeing Halliburton, Las Vegas Sands, and so on, including the NASDAQ company. Then later on Thursday, we'll be having American Airlines reporting their earnings. We'll see Blackstone, Capital One Financial, Freeport McMoran, a very interesting company in the mining and exploration, Intuitive Surgical, Johnson & Johnson, and so on. So as you can see, there's quite a large number of companies that will be reporting this week. And of course, the highlight on Friday will be the American Express. So it will be very important to look at these earnings individually as well as collectively to try and understand the direction that they are taking. So once we understand the direction that these earnings are taking, then we'll be able to understand the strength or the health of the US stock market. So a lot of investors have been worried that the market is about to crash, the high interest rates are hurting the economy, but then the earnings from these companies plus their projections for the next couple of quarters will basically give us an overview of what to expect with the US market. So besides this, as for the economic calendar, we can see that early this morning, we had data coming in from China. First things first, GDP improved to 6.3% from a previous reading of 4.5%, but these largely missed the expectations of 7.1%. So it basically shows that the Chinese recovery is slowing down. And if you look at industrial production, yes, there was a good improvement from 3.5 to 4.4%. So with industrial production improving, then we could be seeing demand for oil continue to rise. And of course, retail sales had slowed down in the month of June to 3.1% from 12.7% the previous month. And of course, fixed asset investment year to date was down to 3.8% from a previous reading of 4.0%. But of course, this was better than expected. The expectation was 3.4%. So there was also an NBS press conference after the announcement. And then the unemployment rate in level at 5.2%. So it's a mixed data from China, but most importantly, industrial production is improving. And this is what a lot of investors are looking for. So going forward, for the rest of the day, we'll be having the G20 meetings continuing all day. This is day 4. And of course, we'll also be having a speech from ECB President Lagarde. So she's set to deliver a speech, a pre-recorded opening remarks at the ECB conference on Central, Eastern, and Southeastern European countries in Frankfurt. So there's a good chance that these could carry some hints about monetary policy in the Eurozone, and these could cause some volatility in the euro pairs. So this will be happening exactly at 11:15 a.m. So that's about 9 minutes from now. So it's important we follow through this, especially right after this session. So going forward for the rest of the day, the most important data point will be the Empire State Manufacturing Index in the US, which will be released at 3:30 p.m. Then tomorrow, very early in the morning at 4:30 a.m., we'll be looking at the monetary policy meeting minutes. This will be happening at 4:30 a.m. G20 meetings continue, and of course, Canadian CPI will be happening at 3:30 p.m. tomorrow. So among the key highlights that will be happening this week include retail sales and core retail sales for the US on Tuesday, inflation data for New Zealand as well as for the UK, and then later on we'll be looking at inflation data from the Eurozone. You can see the final CPI year over year here, jobs data from Australia, unemployment claims from the US, and then as we approach the end of the week, we'll be getting job data from Australia and core retail sales and retail sales from Canada on Friday at 3:30 p.m. So clearly, it's quite a quiet week. We know some of the big data that moves the markets includes central bank decisions. None of the central banks is reporting their interest rate decisions this week. So we are expecting some level of calm and normalcy to resume in the markets. So with this in mind, there's quite a number of charts that I've been checking out. So first things first is the French 40 index, which has been obeying this particular trend line for quite a period of time now. And last week, the market was able to retest that particular resistance line and failed to break and started moving downwards. And as you can see, this week we are seeing a continuation downwards. So there is a good chance that this chart will continue playing out, and we could be seeing some further downside happening in the French 40 stock market index. So another key highlight that I've been following, in this case, for Euro Pound, we know it's a break towards the upper side. So in this case, there's still some small room, a very small wiggle room where the market is now retesting this area here. So in this case, if the euro is unable to continue rallying against the pound, then it's an interesting area to start looking for potential short selling positions. So the price action around this area will be very important to see whether the euro is unable to break and form higher highs. So for Euro Pound, if it's unable to break here, then we could be seeing the price dropping all the way back down, and this would represent an interesting trading opportunity. So it hasn't happened yet, so it's a matter of wait and see. We look at what happens with the price around this area, and if there's signal showing that there is a strong entry by sellers, then that would be the go-to area to look for an entry. So we also have a very interesting chart in the Euro Stocks Index. So the Euro 50 cash index has been facing a very strong resistance at around this area. And this is the 5th time that the market was testing here. So on Friday, last week, the market was unable to break this area, kept retesting, and now you can see we are seeing some momentum downwards. And there's a good chance we'll be seeing the chart make another swing back down towards the previous supports. So clearly, this is a potential trading opportunity where the price could drop all the way back down. And then we have the US equity indices, which have been quite unpredictable for a while now. So starting with the NASDAQ, which happened to make a very nice break here. It made a very strong and impressive rally last week. So you can see from the beginning of the week, I just tested the support and then went all the way up before facing some rejection and pulling back downwards. So following the earnings that we saw last week, the US stock market is currently very strong, and this pullback was very much welcome. So from the pullback, you can see we didn't have much volatility in the early morning trading. So this is what the market was doing. But now as we enter the London session, there's a very strong possibility that the UT 100 or the NASDAQ 100 will continue to rally up, and we could be seeing the price going back to the previous high, and that's the high that we saw on Friday. So it's a similar correlation that we are seeing happening across board. So if you look at the S&P 500, it's the same. So you were waiting for this pullback, and now that it has happened, there's a good chance that the market will continue to rally to the previous high. So for US30, it's a similar story, but it's the weakest among the three indices. So I would go for the NASDAQ over any other index. And of course, second in line would be the S&P 500. So as we proceed, if you have any questions, feel free to type those questions in the live comment section, and I'll be responding to those questions right away. Good morning, Mosharia and Joash, Lemuel and Apollo. Please share the link to earnings. I prefer going directly to the company, but if you want to see the number of companies reporting their earnings this week, then the link is right here, just shared in the comment section. Check USD JPY and silver. I'll check on that. Hello, Christine and Charles Mokua. So the other chart I want us to focus on, right after going through that, we have the fund favorite. This is gold. So gold has been ranging for the last 2 days. So this is the 15 minutes chart. You can see it was a sideways momentum here on Thursday, sideways momentum on Friday, and today you can see the market is currently just testing and retesting the support here. So the idea is to trade the breakout. Eventually, we know that gold will break out, and once that happens, then it may present us with a trading opportunity. So in this case, having seen gold form an inverted head and shoulder pattern here, that was completed last week, and then making a break and a run for it, went all the way up, did not quite get to our target of 1973, but after the big momentum upwards during the US CPI, we saw the market start trading sideways. So from the price action on the 1 hour chart, it's pretty clear that we are having way longer tails on the lower side. These long tails are indicative of rejection of lower prices. And in this case, there's a good chance we will be seeing gold make a run for the previous high and potentially break the previous high. So my speculation for gold, I expect to see some form of momentum towards this area. And of course, we have to be careful. It could also break this level. So if there's a break, then it's a straightforward trade. So for a break, in this case, I would be looking for a potential drop all the way down to this area here, around 1933. So it's a matter of wait and see, observe the price action in order to go for your trade. But currently, it seems like the market has tested this area way too many times, failed to break, and we could be seeing some further upside happening in gold. So USD CAD managed to make a very strong bounce from this support area here. Perhaps we'll be seeing the dollar continue to make a comeback. So going to the dollar index as a reference point, in this case, you can see it was completely bearish, managed to make a comeback slightly on Friday. But this morning, you can all see that the market is attempting to continue dumping the dollar. So if the dollar index continues losing, then the overall expectation is that the pound USD continues to make a rally upwards. I remember saying this last week that the pound made a very important break here, a pullback and a continuation. And after this big rally, we are seeing the market consolidating downwards, but now there's a good chance it will start picking up. So you can almost pick up the hints here from the relative size of the tails, indicating a rejection of lower prices, and then making the market jumping up higher. So there is a good chance we'll be seeing some further upside in pound USD, as well as Euro USD. And of course, for USD JPY, it's the exact opposite. So as long as the dollar remains weak, then the expectation is that we see a drop happening here. So sometimes it's not straightforward. Notice how it happened last week on Thursday. So the market didn't just drop, it took some time, but eventually got there on Friday. So today, after having seen this pullback, then there's expectation that we will now be testing Friday's low. So there is a good chance we'll be seeing some further downside happening in USD JPY. And for USD CAD, it's a little bit tricky because we are seeing a much weaker dollar in the markets. And in this case, there was a big spike towards the end of the week. So As for Brent Oil, it's very important to notice that this market faced a very strong resistance that has been holding for quite a number of months now. And once the market got to that resistance, attempted to break and eventually reversed immediately. So this morning, you can see how the market opened with a gap, attempted to close the gap, and then continued pushing lower. So the overall expectation is that we keep seeing weaker oil prices as the market goes back to retest the area around $77.137 per barrel. So there is a good chance we'll be seeing some continued momentum downwards for Brent oil prices. So another comment here. Morning, Kevin. How do you think of Netflix stock? This being earnings week plus Hollywood actors strike. Yeah, for the Hollywood actors strike is a big scandal happening. We know that they have been completely underpaying the people who participate in their movies. And this is just getting started. So there's a good chance that Netflix will be facing a class action suit, and not just Netflix, but other companies in Hollywood. And this could blow out massively. However, this does not affect the earnings of the company. So we will be focusing on how well the company is converting and making money. And once we get to understand this, then hopefully we will be able to understand the full picture. And if there's a sell-off as a result of a class action, then it could result in a potential entry for buy side in the Netflix shares. So it's short-term events like these that cause price action to get really volatile. So if there's a big sell-off as a result of the class action, then it would imply there's a good chance to buy the stock. But in order to buy the stock, you need to have some buy-side research and conviction. And one of the best ways to identify this is by looking at the history of earnings versus what they'll be reporting this week. So there's a request to make a brief on our CME FedWatch tool and how to use it to predict future price action. Thank you for the request. I will try and do that on the next session. So remember, tomorrow is Tuesday. We'll be having two sessions, one in the morning and the other one will be happening at 4 p.m. So perhaps by 4 p.m. We'll have something on this. DXY now at 15-month low. Is it at a lower point before rate hikes? Is in this a pause before rally? Markets are forward looking. So we are seeing a shift where investors are now betting that there will be more rate hikes happening in the UK and the Eurozone. And we are seeing that flipping happening. More investors going for the euro and the pound, and less investors in the dollar. Is there a big outlier in earnings? Yes, absolutely. The earnings are quite surprising, to be honest. We are seeing companies making some really good returns in a period where we expected to see weaker returns. So in this case, we will be looking for those outliers, just like you remember last quarter when NVIDIA reported some outblown earnings, and then they gave projections where they're expecting to make even more earnings, which made the company gain over 200% so far year to date. So we'll be following closely to understand the trends that continue happening with these companies to gauge the health of the US stock market. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on the next session tomorrow. Remember, this will be happening at 11 a.m. and another session at 4 p.m. So I'm interested to start trading. How can I start? Kindly go to FX Pesa YouTube, the same channel you are watching this, and look for a course that I've developed called the Novice to Pro. So from the Novice to Pro channel, you'll be able to go through 10 episodes that help you transition from a complete beginner to a pro level trader. And once you go through that, make sure to practice as you watch each and every episode. And hopefully this will help you transition.